Mayada Manan Break. I am a Nubian from Sudan. I am an activist as well as a community organizer. Came here in '89. And I would like to present a little bit more information on the marginalization of the Sudanese people as well as the Nubian people in Sudan and in Egypt.
Good afternoon. My name is Courtney Richardson. I am the founder, formerly of the Ivy Investor, now of Desired Legacy, and also a member of the Black Wealth Project, not an owner of By the Hood. But by day, I serve as solicitor for small towns and municipalities outside of the city of Philadelphia. I also serve on the board that oversees the city of Philadelphia's finances. But the most important work that I do is I do estate administration and planning for people who look like us. Unfortunately, that is something that we have a very big problem in our community, and it has been since the beginning of time for multiple reasons, and it's things that we deal with. But I've been in financial services for about 20 years. I worked in Merrill Lynch. I did 401k advising. I also did banking and high net worth advising. So one of the things I like to talk about is how the rich do things, but you can do it too, but it's just a little bit differently. But also talking about how women can create, maintain, and transfer wealth efficiently and properly to make sure all their needs are met in terms of what they desire their legacy to be. Thank you.
That is so awesome. Y'all, Courtney is my friend. So like every single time she introduces herself, I'm like, yes, queen. My name is Kezia Williams, and I am CEO of the Black Upstart. We train Black entrepreneurs to start job creating businesses. Currently, there are 2.56 million Black entrepreneurs, but only 110,000 of them have the capacity to employ at least one person. So we teach Black people not just how to start an enterprise, but to start an enterprise that can create the type of economic emancipation that can free themselves.
Greetings, everybody. My name is Jared Ball, and I am a professor of communication and Africana studies at Morgan State University. Go Bears. No disrespect to where I currently am, of course. I'm author of, among other things, The Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power, the second edition of which, coming out in 2023, will have an additional chapter on what I call cryptoganda, the propaganda related to the crypto ecosphere and environment. And I am an advocate of Black radical organization and the assumption of political power. So I'm here largely as an invited and humble critic of a lot of what I've heard here, but I appreciate being invited and engaging in the discussion. Thank you very much.
All right, the first question, mainly because I can't do a top three, I want to at least get the top two things that you tell people that will help build them wealth. And be respective to your demographic, because I know that Mayada is specifically talking about Sudan and Sudanese Americans. So the top two, and people should be able to walk away with at least 8 points at that point. Oh, okay, we begin with Dr. Ball first. Sure. Yeah.
Well, I guess my immediate target audience is African America, but the Pan-African community more broadly speaking, including my adopted and married family in Panama, Latin Americans. But primarily I do start with Black America. And the two things I tell them is that if we really want to have wealth, we have to have a political revolution. We have to assume political power and be in control of the distribution and definition of wealth. That's the only way it's going to happen. There is no catching up through investment, through traditional economics, whether it's in Bitcoin or crypto or anything else. So we need political power, and we should be organizing for that. And I guess those would be the two things that I would say more than anything are required for wealth, if that's in fact what we want.
All right. Since we teach Black entrepreneurs, one of the things that I say is Black people spend $1.5 trillion annually. Oh, let me say that one more time in case y'all forget, in case y'all ain't listening, in case y'all hungry and y'all waiting for lunch, but we spend $1.5 trillion annually. If we were to combine that spending power, we would represent the 10th wealthiest nation in the entire world. And so like, while newspapers are reporting on our spending power, while institutions are researching our spending power, there are businesses that are steady capitalizing off of our spending power, but those businesses are not owned by us. When we look at the $1.5 trillion that we spend and the top 5 businesses that Black people normally start, that includes administrative services, waste remediation, healthcare services, professional services, and even though there's nothing wrong with those enterprises, when we look at the top 7 to 8 products and services that we buy, ethnic hair care and beauty products, refrigerated drinks, contraceptives is one, refrigerated drinks, there's very little alignment in where we spend our money and where we create our enterprise. So I like to tell Black entrepreneurs that our $1.5 trillion should not be a blank check for every other community to sign but our own. When we think about the history of Black entrepreneurship, Mary McLeod Bethune was able to not only serve, but capitalize off of educating African-American entrepreneurs. When we look at Annie Malone, Madam C.J. Walker, the ethnic hair care and beauty products, those were self-made millionaires. They were able to get it inside of Black spaces. When we reminisce on Black Wall Street, those Black entrepreneurs were able to capitalize and also serve the communities that white entrepreneurs would not. So if we're looking to resource our businesses, understanding that there is an access to capital gap, I tell Black entrepreneurs to look where dollars are already being spent. Now, secondly, I agree with this gentleman right here. I think that if we really want wealth equity in this country, we cannot ask Black people to pull up by their bootstraps. One, that is impossible. But two, there are other demographics that have pulled up on a policy while they've asked us to pull up by the bootstrap. Homestead Act. The government resourced white Americans with free land. Free land. That's seeded wealth that was passed down from generation to generation. Y'all thinking Social Security taking care of your grandparents and your mama and your daddy? That bill was initially created to help white male Americans. So was the GI Bill. If we want to take it into a contemporary example, the PPP wasn't designed to help you. I know your cousin got a $5,000 loan, $2,000 loan, but initially that helped publicly traded companies that were majority run by white males. So when we talk about wealth creation and wealth equity, yes, we should capitalize off of the $1.5 trillion, but we also need to get intentional about those policies that direct the wealth that we research from this country from our tax dollars back into our communities.
Okay. So it's actually 2 plus 1, because I think we can't hit all of the points. The biggest thing is about, one, creating wealth. You have to actually bring in income. You're bringing in income, and you're making sure that the income that you're bringing in isn't always from your labor. Unfortunately, we have a love affair with our labor. At some point, you're going to have to say, I'm not going to do this. I need something to do it for me. The next thing is actually maintaining your wealth. When you get to a certain point, the IRS tax code will take the money, run me my money. That's what Uncle Sam says. So how do we make sure that we're maintaining our wealth using the tools that are provided to us? The tax code is two phone books. I'm dating myself. 2 phone books big, and it's impossible to know it all, but actually learning the things that benefit you and what you have going on. And then finally, this is where my heart lies, is transferring the wealth to the next generation. We really, unfortunately, dropped the ball there, sometimes because we don't like talking about death. Here's the thing, we're gonna die. You're gonna die. And the thing is that understanding, once you kind of appreciate, I am not going to be on this earth for long. Whatever time that is, it's going to be tomorrow or it's going to be 50 years from now. What do I have to pass on, and how am I going to do that in the best way possible? And there's so many different ways to do it, but it's estate planning. And a lot of people that I talk to, they say, well, I don't have anything. I was like, people will fight you over a broken lamp. Please make sure, but ultimately not losing grandma's house. Sometimes it's a good idea to sell it, but not lose it to the government for back payment of taxes and things like that. So really focusing on how to transfer the wealth properly. So making more money, not giving your time away, finding other ways to make passive income. Next thing is that basically not giving your money back to the government, so finding ways that make the most sense for you to keep the most money, and using 401ks, using all those tax advantage accounts for the next move, and then ultimately maintaining, so making sure that all of those accounts that you have, your 401k, which is making sure you have your beneficiaries, making sure your life insurance, you have a beneficiary, making sure you have life insurance, making sure that the property that you have is either titled or willed to the person that it's supposed to go to, and not leaving it up to the government to decide based on the laws of intestacy, what happens when you die without a will.
The most important thing that I feel that we've learned for the past 33 years when it came to Sudan and its constant revolutions, the most recent one was in October 25th of 2019, is that we have plenty of revolutionaries in Sudan, as well as in Aswan in Egypt, but the missing components is sustainability, and that is economic sustainability, and as well as rooting out corruption from a Ottoman, Turkish, Egyptian rulership that has been there since 1505, and its elements has basically penetrated Sudan. Sudan, known as land of the blacks, has an identity crisis as well, and a lot of people, due to this Egyptian condemnation, now identify as Arab, although they are black Africans. There are over 300 languages, over 600 groups, ethnic groups between Sudan and South Sudan. And if we don't have sustainability, because we have the resources, we have the gold, we have the oil, we have the uranium, we have the Arabic gum that is used in your magazines and your photographs. We have many resources, but we don't have the ability to refine. We don't have the stability economically, and we continue to have these dictatorships. So for me, I feel that if we are to use this blockchain technology in a more realistic way when it comes to some of the less developed nations, such as my country, it would help us in the manner of having an election that cannot be rigged. We had a dictator for 30 years, and part of that was he attempted to have a free election that the African Union observers clearly saw that was not free because no one really showed up, and somehow he won 94% of the electoral, of the vote. And that would probably be prevented with technology such as blockchain technology. I've had this discussion before with our sister Deidre here, and because it could not be manipulated.
I knew she cut herself, so everybody here could keynote. And I'm enjoying listening to it, but we have about 3 minutes per person, time remaining. Arguably, it's been said that in the United States, no matter who's in power, we don't have no power. And I'm going to extrapolate it because I've known Mayada now for I don't know how many years. We won't even say how many years. The same scenario is true in Sudan, that these revolutions by the indigenous ethnic groups of Sudan are thwarted to reinstate the old regimes that more benefit Saudi Arabia, Russians, anybody else who's not Sudanese. So we're dealing with the same situation at home in the United States or at home in Africa. So is there no hope for us to build wealth because we can't get that political power? I know it's hard to ask you to summarize this in 3 minutes, but I definitely want to try to tackle almost like a workshop thing. What little thing can we do to push us forward? I'm going to start a little bit out of order. So Kezia first. Kezia first? Yeah.
Oh, you gonna start with me? Oh, Lord, I was still processing the whole question. I felt like someone asked me, how do you advance world peace? Such a big question, you know. I like to tell people that you shouldn't swim in an ocean of knowledge and drown in ignorance. And so what that means is that we've moved into a space where knowledge has become one of the most important resources that you could acquire. And I think what's awesome about today is that you can acquire that knowledge on the other end of your laptop, on the other end of your cell phone. There are systems and institutions that have begun to become dismantled because of the pandemic. Instead of just going to work to get a paycheck, now you can side hustle on websites like Fiverr and Upwork, right? You can take your skills from an employer that's paying you a separate but unequal paycheck and begin to monetize it with your clients via these platforms. Now, instead of having to go to a broker to teach you how to trade, you have people like Courtney, the Ivy investor, EYL master investor, that's Ian Dunlap, that are teaching you real time how to open an online broker account and begin trading index funds that can make you money while you sleep. We are now starting to come into our understanding of instruments like the custodial Roth IRA account, UGMA accounts, UTMA accounts, where you can invest. Hello? Okay, where you can invest as little as $300 a month for 6 consecutive years, and by the time your child reaches 50, 60 years old, that child could have $3 million. So what's that knowledge capital that you can acquire in such a way that you could put it to use to begin to dismantle, I think what you said, the political structures that keep us from building wealth?
Courtney, and then we go with Dr. Ball, and then Mayala.
So I think it's really on a micro scale. I think that's a really big question. It's a very macro question, but I think it's, when they say when you go on an airplane, they said, if the cabin loses pressure, put your mask on first. And I think that is the most important, is that we put our mask on first, is that we take care of our household. And if everybody takes care of their household, we push ourselves in a position where we do have the capital to put those in office that support our needs and actually understand what we're trying to do. Because that's the biggest thing, and I've seen that across the board, is that we need to get the political power. And the way you get that is you actually fund the candidates that support you and that support what you are looking for. Because we have a representative democracy, so they represent you. And then also, even still on a micro level, those who are in office, they represent you. Go see them. Have a conversation. Make sure that you're still holding them accountable, whether you voted for them or not. And I think those are the things, and creating those relationships, because the government is supposed to work for you, whether it does or does not. It's supposed to work for you. So doing those things in your family and kind of reaching out from there and having those conversations with your groups, that really moves everybody forward. And then also giving back. Actually giving money to the institutions that we went to, making sure that, we're putting some money into the pot, because a lot of times you can look at the endowment of Howard University versus the endowment of Harvard University. Now, there's some systemic issues of why those are so disproportionately different. However, what we can do on a micro level is we can give.
So let me just say this, because there's not a lot of time, and I disagree with so much of what I've heard here, unfortunately. I wrote a book called The Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power, specifically to confront and challenge what we just heard here, a lot of which is misunderstood. The 1.5 trillion or whatever that we're said to be spending is marketing and advertising propaganda and mythology about helping marketers and ad buyers direct their campaigns. It is not a measurement of black income or wealth. It's a measurement of all that black people earn that white corporations think is available to them to capture through ad revenue. And because of our black commercial press trying to capture that ad revenue themselves, they perpetuate the myth. So the book is free. You can get it at mixwhatilike.org and read the book in the broader argument around that and the details and the analysis. And then I would encourage people to also check out the work of my comrades and colleagues at Black Power Media and expand our media diet to expand the conversation beyond what I think is a lot of the mythology that is holding us up from getting to the political power that we want. There's so many economic and political mythology, so much history we've skipped over. Our understanding of Black Wall Street, my colleagues and I already obliterated that mythology. Black Wall Street was not simply the destruction of white supremacists blocking black businesses. Those businesses rebuilt by the 1940s to be even bigger and were then destroyed by federal public policy. That is really the point that I would ultimately want us to get to. And in terms of the comparison between Sudan and what's happening here is a good one, because it is a crypto-colonial relationship that black people have to the establishment here, as the Sudanese have to their former colonial powers on the continent of Africa. That relationship is extractive and abusive. It does not allow us access to the real wealth-producing and power-producing centers of society. That's why we are encouraged to so much mythology, which is unfortunately promoted by some of the people that the sister here was mentioning.
You know, I think it's interesting. Will I get a chance to actually respond to this?
No, well, we don't really have time, and I want to give accurate time.
Well, then I guess we'll have to have another panel, because
we told you this was going to be high. We told you it was going to be high.
My timer here. So even, I'm just saying we disagree. It's not, there's no disrespect. It's not hostile. We just disagree. So if you, for instance, I wrote an article called Cryptoganda where I go through some of the people that she mentioned, Earn Your Leisure, Ian Dunlap. Earn Your Leisure, just very quickly, really what we're doing, what they invite us to do is earn their leisure by hustling us. And having us invest in what will make them money, but is not helping the black community. Look at the economic data. The national, we've gone through it on my platform a lot lately, and I've helped produce some of the research, and I'll stop here because I know I've...
Now
we've
turned to criticizing influencers, educators, instead of actually imparting information. Raise the consciousness of the individuals in the audience.
Excuse me. It's not a political debate.
Can I just say one more thing?
I want you to take, because right now you're extending into Mayada's time, so I want to give her time to talk for 3 minutes because the panel is about to end. Mayada?
But my time was interrupted, so I didn't get a chance to finish.
Okay. All right. So I completely forgot the question now. Okay, because I was listening to the debate. As far as for me, Pan-Africanism is the most important thing, and in this space here, we're able to work collaboratively to find solutions. And I think there is room for constructive criticism as well as innovation. Technology and even green energy are the future. We don't want to be left behind. We want a balance between old and new. And at the same time, I think it's very important to see that this wealth gap that does exist, you can see it. I can just walk into Southeast DC and see it, you know. So I don't think that it's actually a stretch of a criticism. It's very real, you know. It exists in my country. My country, before it was called Sudan, it was called Nubia or Nuba, okay, and had many kingdoms, and it's dubbed after being land of the gold. And this gold was used to finance the war in Ukraine. So, but yet everyone there makes $2.75 a day, maybe $65 a month at the very most. We have healthcare workers that are, 25%, 25% of the healthcare workers there are trained and the rest are not. So we can use technology to solve some of the problems, but what's really important for us is to ensure that we root out corruption and we do collaborative efforts within the African diaspora.
Thank you, Mayada, Courtney, Kazia, and Dr. Ball.
Thank you.
Give him a round of applause. Thank you.